everyone, it's Christy. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to card number 14 in my 2016 holiday card series. Today I'm going to be using this cute set from Avery Elle called Polar Pals, and then I'll be using the Whale Hello set just for the little fish that are in that set, as the one in the Polar Pals only faces one direction and I wanted fish facing both directions. So I had already colored in the two polar bears from this set during Kathy Rakusen's The Daily Marker 30-Day Coloring Challenge on Instagram. So I thought I would stamp some other images from that set and create a scene card. So I'm starting out with these two little girls and I'm going to color their faces first. So I'm using E53 for the shadows and then E51 to blend that out. The only skin that's showing is their faces, so that's all I need to color. And then I'm going to take the R20 and color them in some rosy cheeks since they'd be outside where it's cold. And then I'm also going to take those two E shades and color in the muzzle of, I'm not sure if he's a walrus or a sea lion. My 11-year-old came in and said, oh, I like the sea lion, so I'm going to call him a sea lion, but I suppose he could be a walrus as well. I'm going to color in one girl's hair to be blonde, so I use the R23 and the R21. And then I'm coloring the other one as a brunette using the E44, E47, and E49. And I'm just coloring streaks to make it look like hair strands. And I just started with my lightest shade and built up, and then I'm coloring back down in the reverse so that that last E44 is going to kind of blend everything in a little bit. I'm also going to use those same three shades to color in my sea lion. So I'm starting with the E49 down at the base of his throat there where he's popping out of the iceberg, because the iceberg would be casting a shadow right there. And then I'll blend out with the E47 and then finish the top portion of his head with the E44. Just making sure to blend up the color from the sides so that I create a nice transition. I'm using BG10, BG11, and BG13 for my little blonde girl's parka. And I'm just starting with the BG13 and laying in some shadows, and then blending out most of that with the BG11, just leaving a small area for highlight that I will then fill in with the BG10. And I'll use those same three shades on the hood of her parka, again just starting with the BG13 towards the bottom and under her neck where the shadows would be, and then as I get towards the top where the sun would hit it, that's where I'll leave my highlight. While I have those colors out, I'm going to use them to shade my little iceberg. So I'm using the BG13 right around the sea lion, and also in the places on the sides where I want it to look like it's indented a little bit. And then I'll blend out with the BG11. And I'll also put some shadow on the back of the iceberg with the BG11. And then I'll just blend all that out with the BG10. And I'll also color the additional iceberg exactly the same, just using the BG13 on the side where I want the indentations to be, and blending out with the BG11, and also using that to just shade in the back so that it looks like a little more three-dimensional instead of so flat, and then just finishing with the BG10 again. For the white portions of both girls' parkas, I'm just going to use the BG11, the BG10, and then blend that out with my colorless blender to kind of fade that out so it looks white, just with some shadows. For the brunette girl's parka, I'm using RV13, RV14, and RV17. And I did encounter a couple of problems on this card, but I decided to leave them in the video to show you that you really can fix most things. I have a leaky RV13, and I knew that, and I decided to use it anyway. I thought I could be careful, but you can see right there on her left cuff that it did leak. So I thought I should have learned my lesson right there when that happened, but I decided to go ahead and color in her hood exactly the same. And I was fine with the RV17 and the RV14, but when I got to the highlight, I had a leak again. You can see that I was trying to do it in just really quick light strokes, but it didn't matter, it still bled out. But that's okay, you can fix just about everything. So I'm grabbing my colorless blender now after I let it dry for just a few seconds. I added an additional piece of paper underneath in case it needed to soak into something. And then I just started working on those areas and trying to remove that RV13. And you can see that it's starting to work there. But the last thing I want to do is oversaturate the paper and have it start bleeding again. So I'm just going to set that aside and let that dry for now. I'm going back to my E47 to color in their shoes. And I'm just going to color that solid because they'd be completely in shadow underneath the parka. I grabbed my G03 and G05 to color in the blonde girl's scarf. But when I'd looked at my color chart, I had actually been looking at the YGs and I grabbed the wrong ones. So it wasn't as bright as I wanted. So I'm adding in the YG03 to finish that off and just make that a little bit brighter and a little more yellow toned. I'm using the RV14 for her mittens. And now that those places have had time to dry, I'm going to go in one more time with my colorless blender and just finish pushing that ink back into the pink area so that it's bright white again. And then I'll set her aside to dry and move on to my little fish. I'm going to use RV17 and RV14 for them, just coloring in the tails with the RV17 and then filling in their bodies with the RV14. For my seal, I'm going to use W1, W3, and W5. So I'm starting with the W5 on his tail and shading in the lower portion of his body. And then I'll blend that out with the W3. I'm going to take that about halfway up and then I'll finish with the W1, just filling the rest of that in and blending in the transition. And then I will take my W5 and W3 again and just add some character by giving him some dot detail on the lower portion of his body. And now that the brunette girl is dry, I can go back with my BG11 and fill in her cuff again, and then color her mittens with the BG13. I die cut those out with the matching dies, and then I took the Mama Elephant Snow-Capped Mountain die and used some MFT Grapesicle cardstock, and then I cut a snowbank out of some white cardstock using the Lawn Fawn Stitched Hillside Border dies. And I'm using a piece of Snow Cone MFT cardstock for my base. So I'm going to take some Tombow Mono multi-glue and glue my mountains to the background. I'm adhering those pretty close to the top of the card base. And then I will take the snow caps, which are included with that die set, and I've die cut those out of some Spectre Noir Ultra Smooth Premium White cardstock. That's my favorite cardstock for any stamping or crafting. So I'll just adhere those to the tops of the mountains with some more Tombow Mono. I just love the stitching detail that they added to the snow caps. I think it looks really cute and finished. So I'll just adhere that last one over on the left side. And it's really easy to tell which ones go on which mountain because they fit really nicely. I'm going to take my snowbank and adhere that to the card with some foam tape. And you can see that I die cut both the top and the bottom portion so that the bottom part where the blue is showing is going to make it look like water. So I'm just going to make sure that that's lined up straight on the card, and then I'll press that into place. I put a little bit of foam tape on the base of my sea lion, and I'll put some Tombow Mono at the top so he can fit right over on the left side in the water along the shoreline. And my other iceberg is going to also go on that shoreline, just on the little curve up there. My mama polar bear, I'm going to stick down back behind the snowbank, so she's just getting adhered flat to the card. And my baby bear is going to get a little foam tape just behind her head so that she can stand on top of the snowbank and have some dimension between her and the mother. And I'll do the same for my two little girls. They just have a little foam tape behind their head where they're overlapping the mountains, and then just Tombow where they're standing on the snowbank. I'll take my little seal, and she's going to go right on top of my iceberg right there. And then I'm just going to grab my Tombow and dot 3 little dots where I want my fish to go. I thought that would be easier. And then I'll just lay those little die cuts right over top of the glue. And I like that they add another pop of that hot pink to the card. Now I'm going to take my sentiment that says, "You warm my heart," and I'm going to stamp that in some Lawn Fawn Merman ink. And here is where I made my second mistake of the card. I meant to stamp this out before I adhered any of my dimensional pieces, and I forgot. So I had a hard time working around them, and right on the T, it didn't stamp right. So I didn't know what to do at first, so I went ahead with my other plan, which was to stamp a couple snowflakes around the sentiment between the mountains. So I have a small, medium, and large. And then I had to decide what to do about my sentiment. So I re-stamped that onto a banner, and I die cut that with the Neat and Tangled scallop dies. There's 3 banners included in that set. And I popped that up with a bit of foam tape at the top of the card. And there's that die that I used. So even though I had 2 major problems on this card, in the end you really can't tell. And I think that's a good way to go about card making. You know, if you make a mistake, try to problem solve and see if you can fix it in a different way and just continue with the project. So that's going to complete the card for today. I decided to forego any embellishment and just let these cute images and the coloring shine. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I'll include a couple bonus videos here at the end from past Christmas card series if you'd like to watch those. You can just click on the video link that's right on the screen. And I will be back on Monday with card 15 in my 2016 holiday card series. Also, you can click on my photo to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Thanks so much. Have a great day.